In the golden age of Hollywood, when stars were gods and secrets were currency, one letter changed everything we thought we knew about kindness, strategy, and the true nature of stardom. The year was 1953. Audrey Hepburn, a relatively unknown actress, penned words to Gregory Peck that would not only reshape her destiny, but reveal a truth about human nature so profound, so calculating yet so genuine, that it would floor even the most cynical observers of Tinseltown's Game of Thrones. This is the story of a letter that proved kindness wasn't just a virtue, it was the ultimate strategy. Hollywood in 1953 was a machine, designed to manufacture dreams and destroy dreamers, with equal precision. The studio system ruled with an iron fist, where contracts were chains and publicity was propaganda. In this glittering prison, Gregory Peck stood as one of the untouchables, a leading man whose integrity seemed as unshakable as his box office appeal. But even kings need allies in kingdoms built on quicksand. Peck had learned early that in Hollywood, today's friend could be tomorrow's rival, and yesterday's enemy might hold the key to survival. The handsome actor, with his distinctive voice and moral gravitas, had witnessed careers destroyed by a single misstep, friendships shattered by a poorly timed photograph, and reputations obliterated by whispered rumors in studio corridors. What the world didn't know was that Peck's seemingly effortless rise to stardom had been marked by calculated moves, strategic friendships, and an almost supernatural ability to read people's true intentions. He had survived the treacherous waters of Hollywood, not just through talent, but through an understanding that in a world where everyone wore masks, a person who could see behind them held all the power. Little did he know that a letter from a young actress would challenge everything he thought he knew about the delicate balance between authenticity and ambition in the entertainment industry. Audrey Hepburn in 1953 was not yet the fashion icon, the humanitarian, or the beloved actress the world would come to adore. She was Audrey Kathleen Rustin, a girl who had survived the Nazi occupation of the Netherlands, who had danced in chorus lines to pay for acting classes, who had appeared in small British films that barely registered with American audiences. Her childhood had been marked by literal hunger during the Schuring the Thee Dutch famine, and the metaphorical hunger that comes from watching your father abandon your family when you're 6 years old. These experiences had forged in her a particular kind of empathy, an understanding of vulnerability that would later become her greatest weapon in a business that thrived on emotional manipulation. When she arrived in Hollywood, she carried herself with a contradictory combination of genuine humility and quiet confidence that confused industry veterans. Here was a woman who seemed almost too good for the game, yet who played it with an intuition that bordered on genius. She understood that in a world full of manufactured personalities, authenticity itself could be the most powerful performance of all. But authenticity required strategy. And strategy, as Audrey would prove in her letter to Gregory Peck, required a kind of kindness so calculated, so perfectly timed, and so genuinely felt that it would redefine what it meant to be both human and ambitious in Hollywood's golden age. Casting of Roman Holiday was Hollywood mythology in the making. William Wyler, the director, had been searching for his princess, not just any actress, but someone who could embody innocence without naivety, sophistication without cynicism. The role had been offered to established stars, but something about the script demanded freshness, a face that audiences hadn't yet learned to categorize. Gregory Peck, already attached to the project, held unusual power in the casting process. His approval could make or break an unknown actress's career, and he knew it. The weight of this responsibility sat heavily on his shoulders, as did the knowledge that his co-star would either elevate the film to classic status or drag it into forgettable mediocrity. When Audrey screen tested, something magical happened. The camera didn't just capture her image. It captured her soul. But more importantly, for the chess game of Hollywood politics, It captured Gregory Peck's immediate recognition that he was witnessing the birth of a star. In that moment, he faced a choice that would define not just the film, but the trajectory of two careers. He could have felt threatened. Many leading men would have. After all, an unknown actress stealing scenes from an established star was a tale as old as Hollywood itself. Instead, Peck made a decision that would prove his character and set the stage for the letter that would change everything. The letter arrived at Gregory Peck's home on a Tuesday morning in November 1953, just weeks after the completion of Romang Holiday. His housekeeper brought it with the usual stack of fan mail, studio correspondence, and social invitations. But this envelope was different. The handwriting was unmistakably Audrey's, elegant, careful, and somehow urgent despite its restraint. Inside, Audrey had crafted what would become one of the most extraordinary pieces of correspondence in Hollywood history. But what made it truly revolutionary wasn't what she wrote, it was how she wrote it. Every word had been chosen, not just to convey gratitude, but to reveal a level of emotional intelligence that would have impressed the most seasoned diplomats. She began with humility, acknowledging her inexperience and the risk Peck had taken in supporting an unknown actress. But then, in a move that demonstrated her understanding of human psychology, she shifted the focus away from herself and onto him. She wrote about his kindness, his professionalism, his generosity, but not in the simpering, obsequious tone that usually characterized such letters. Instead, Audrey revealed that she had observed something about Peck that others had missed. His acts of kindness weren't random gestures, but part of a carefully constructed philosophy about how to navigate Hollywood without losing one's soul. She had recognized that his kindness was, indeed, strategy, but strategy in service of something larger than mere ambition. What Audrey understood, perhaps instinctively, was that in Hollywood's ecosystem of manufactured emotions and calculated relationships, genuine vulnerability had become the ultimate currency. Her letter to Gregory Peck wasn't just thank you note, it was a masterclass in influence psychology that would have impressed Robert Cialdini decades before he wrote about such principles. She employed what behavioral psychologists now call strategic self-disclosure, revealing just enough personal information to create intimacy, without appearing needy or manipulative. She shared her fears about the film, her gratitude for his mentorship, and her hopes for the future, but she packaged these revelations in language that made Peck feel like a confidant rather than a recipient of flattery. More brilliantly still, she demonstrated what she had learned about him during filming. She wrote about moments when he had shown kindness to crew members, when he had diffused tension on set with humor, when he had gone out of his way to make her feel comfortable during difficult scenes. These observations served multiple purposes. They showed that she had been paying attention, they reinforced his positive self-image, and they created a shared narrative about the kind of people they both aspired to be. The letter was kind, but it was kindness deployed with the precision of a master strategist who understood that the most powerful way to influence someone is to help them become the best version of themselves. In Hollywood's hierarchy, gratitude was typically a one-way street, flowing upward from the powerless to the powerful. But Audrey's letter subverted this dynamic in ways that were both subtle and revolutionary. She expressed gratitude, yes, but she did so in a manner that elevated both herself and Peck, rather than diminishing her own position. Traditional Hollywood thank you letters followed a predictable formula: gushing appreciation, self-deprecation, and promises of eternal loyalty. Audrey's letter contained none of these elements. Instead, she wrote as an equal, someone who recognized that Peck's success had been built not just on talent, but on character, and who was prepared to build her own career on similar foundations. She revealed that she had been studying not just his performances, but his approach to the business itself. She had observed how he treated everyone from studio executives to craft services workers with the same level of respect. She had noticed how he used his star power not to dominate scenes, but to create space for other actors to shine. She had recognized that his kindness wasn't weakness. It was the ultimate display of strength. By articulating these observations, Audrey accomplished something remarkable. She positioned herself as someone capable of playing the game at his level, while simultaneously reinforcing his identity as someone who had transcended the game altogether. It was a move that demonstrated not just emotional intelligence, but strategic brilliance that would serve her throughout her career. Gregory Peck's reaction to Audrey's letter was immediate and profound. Here was someone who had not just understood his approach to Hollywood, but had articulated it better than he ever could himself. She had seen through the industry's cynicism to recognize that kindness could be both genuine and strategic, that integrity could be both moral and practical. He kept the letter in his desk drawer, but more importantly, he began to share its insights with others in the industry. Without betraying Audrey's confidence, he began to speak about the power of strategic kindness. "I